What's up guys, Akariss back again for yet another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about, well, that guy. So as you can tell by the title and thumbnail of today's video, we're going to be discussing our upcoming brand new GHB. Now this one is more interesting than I would say at least last year's GHB, which I wouldn't really call a fallen hero. I'd call him more of a forgotten hero. And if you forgot who that is, it's literally Orson, because, yeah, not much to talk about there. And as expected, he didn't really get any sort of impact. Fallen Muarim here, on the other hand, is interesting enough to warrant this type of video, but also a couple of discussions and use cases that may feel like a build is necessary by you. An investment, a build, maybe some usage out of them. So we're going to go through that in this video and maybe get you thinking about potentially investing into him or using him. He's different than most beasts, and we're going to talk about it right here. So actually, to begin this video, I just want to run over my quick sponsors, which are you guys right there watching. So plenty of you guys have been seeing the splash screens at the end of these videos. That is what that is, and that is the only thing that I'm gonna essentially shout out here at the beginning of these videos, which is maybe just check out the Patreon and see if there's something that you might like out of that. Some benefits include weekly podcasts and defense upgrades, Summoner Duels type discussions. These are all quite useful, I'd say, to most of you that are playing Fire Emblem Heroes, and there's a lot to be improved with all of us, including myself. So if you feel like you want to give back but also get something out of it, check out the Patreon. Another thing that is far more personal and direct, as I'll shout out, is the coaching that's available through Medify. I've gotten plenty of people from never touching a competitive mode like Aether Raids or Arena straight up to the highest tiers, and then they've been able to take those rewards and get a lot out of their favorite heroes. As an example, I had someone from a few months ago that used strictly Fire Emblem 6 units, and they were again able to get up to Vault from almost never playing Aether Raids, auto-dispatching, and that was through the coaching teaching process. For those that don't know, I am a teacher in real life, so the experience you get is very similar to what I do there. But with that being said, let us actually talk about Fallen Muarim. So with Fallen Muarim, you go over his art here first, because I think it's worth a little bit of a mention. Now, Muarim, I believe this artist was Kita Senrei, and Kita has some pretty awesome art from different characters as well. As you can see, he's pretty woke, as you can see by the eyes there. But no, this is actually quite nice art, and I felt it needed a bit of appreciation before we jumped into more of the hard analysis of the video. Nothing else, if you're a Tellius, Radiant Dawn fan, or Path of Radiance fan, then Muarim could be worth building. Unfortunately, Tormod isn't here with him, but I'm sure in time we'll get the other versions. So yeah, let's go talk about Muarim, his weapon, and some of the pros and cons associated with him that might be worth consideration. So first of all, the weapon. At first glance, this may not seem different than the other beast weapons, but it actually is. And this is because it has an even condition for transformations on turn 2, 4, and then after that, every single other turn, he will remain transformed. Now, again, at first you might be thinking, that seems pretty bad, but, and I did too when I first looked at it, the condition doesn't require him to actually be beside other beasts and dragons, unless that's omitted from the text, but it doesn't seem like it is. So this means that he's not as inflexible as some of the other beast units we've gone, and it's one of the big consequences that I honestly have been saying with a lot of other beast type units, which is you got to make sure you have at least some dragons or other beast units to encourage their transform mechanics, otherwise the positioning just becomes pretty inconvenient. So Muarim here trades that out by pretty much being on even turns, and then after turn 4, every turn after that. In my opinion, this is sometimes kind of a pro rather than a con. I have listed it down here as a con, but the thing is, it's also a pro because he doesn't need other dragons and beasts, and you can literally put him on like any team and it doesn't matter, he should do pretty well. He gets all the benefits of all the other infantry beast type weapons, which is null type guard effect, which means he's not affected by stuff like guard or breath effects, so he will get accelerated himself if he wants to, but also deny enemy acceleration. This is quite a good effect, especially when it comes to, let's say, Gale Force type strategies or just firing off specials consistently. On top of that, he has a Fury recoil on his weapon at the end, which could be used in tangent with something like a push or Fury to give more recoil, maybe set up some interactions there for Wings of Mercy, Escape Route, etc. Not everything like that is covered in this build, but you can be pretty unique in how you put them together. So the first part of his weapon, as well, as you'll see, is more debuff, kind of overwhelm, like new age type weapon, which is a menace of all stats, but he doesn't get the bonus, so it's like a partial menace effect, but it's still pretty good to debuff your foe by -6, and it's not just the nearest one, it's all of them, so it's more like a Walmart effect, where he's just debuffing everyone near him by -6. Unfortunately, he doesn't get that benefit himself, but it's still pretty good. The other part is with an HP 75 condition on the foes, he gets attack speed 6 and lulls all their bonuses. So this is quite a heavy weapon. There's a lot going on here, but for the most part, I'd say it's pretty good despite that even condition. When looking at his stat spread, he is favored towards attack and speed, with also having a high HP and defense. Basically, his weakness would be his res. Being a blue beast, though, I don't know how I would place him, because if you compare him to some of the other blue beasts in the game, he may not necessarily stand out. If, like, just as a comparison, we had Nyla, who had a Kanto Rem type effect, recently refined, and she definitely can be more mobile than somebody like Muarim. She also has a slaying weapon, whereas Muarim is going to be more just, I'd say, not reliant on, again, on those beast type effects or transformations. He's just going to hit harder than someone like Nyla, but not necessarily have as much mobility. Either way, when it comes to his fodder skill set by base, it's not that interesting. We already have, I believe, 2 other sources of Wrath in the Grails, which was I think it was Hannah, Ninja Hannah, and Astrum. So again, we've seen Wrath a few times already, and that's really not so interesting. So at least if you're going to merge them, there's not much of a consequence in doing so. You're not really throwing away some premium fodder. When it comes to a budget build, let's say if you wanted to use him just before he gets his reruns, or for his bonus seasons in either Arena or Aether Raids, just giving him a few merges, giving him steady posture off someone like Theo or Rayson, giving him Moonbow, throwing Darting Breath on him will function just fine, especially if you combine him with Far Save. So this doesn't even include the bonus stats, but if you threw in the bonus stats, he'll be a respectable melee tank. One thing that makes him different than a lot of the other Tiger type units like Mordecai, or I believe Kai'Sa, is he actually has quite a great speed stat. Now, looking at some more invested builds, especially once you have the reruns factored in, are 3 things here I would recommend. So taking his great speed and attack stat and amplifying that, you really can combine him with a Far Safe tank, give him stuff like Kestrel Sands 3, Null Follow-Up, and ideally Speed Smoke 4. So this is a skill I might cover in a future video, and it is quite good to just throw onto many speed type characters, because it's just an awesome way to literally give your character dodge or damage reduction. Damage reduction is great, whether you're using it through Flame, Elamine, or now Speed Smoke 4. Now pretty much every character has access to it in one way or another. However, in practice it may not be very functional, it might not be as useful as just throwing Joint Drive Attack, because the problem with the Smoke 4 effects is you still have to engage to activate the dodge type effect, unfortunately, and that might not work out depending on what sort of teams you run into, and may not even be covered by something like Far Save. So that's unfortunate. But one thing that actually we covered recently in the Weapon Refine video is a good partner that can really make these type of builds shine, and that would be our friend Caden here. So the base mechanic doesn't really matter for someone like Muarim, and for Caden it doesn't matter either, but we covered Caden in the most recent weapon refines, and now Caden can actually buff up allies to have a guard type effect. So for those of you that don't want to use stance 3, and instead we want to use something like Unity, or maybe even Omni Tank, meaning giving somebody like Forum, let's say distant stance or distant counter, Caden is a great unit to pair up with these type of units because he provides that guard effect among all the other stats that he has through his weapon. So not featured here, of course, is the non-stance 3 builds or guard type builds or just in general distant counter builds, but I wanted to showcase a solid partner for these type of tanks, which is of course combining him with Caden. If you have access to Caden, he's going to be great to be paired up with someone like this. Now, of course, with Muarim, he doesn't actually require trade fruits to use in arena. He reaches 185 BST, that's 185 base stat total, which is great for arena scoring. So if you wanted to throw something like Times Pulse and Blue Flame on him, he'll be quite good and consistent at shooting off those blue flames. Again, he doesn't actually need other beasts and dragons on the team to function. He's going to be just a bit awkward because of that even condition, but he should nuke really hard and act as a great enemy phase type unit in arena. And of course, because he's blue, there's a decent contrast there with some of the other Grail units recently to be invested, being stuff like Ignatz or Yenfei or Shamir, or whatever. Mostly there's been green or red heavy, so now that Muarim exists, there's a solid blue GHB option worth considering if you wanted to score high in arena. Finally, as I mentioned, and not even featured here with some other potential builds, is recoil from his weapon. So combining push 4 or even something like Fury 4 or even Fury Seal, you could make him recoil quite a bit of damage so that he can set up other units. Giving him Fury 4, Fury 3 Seal, and his weapon all combined is going to give him effectively up to 18 recoil damage. This means that without heavy merges, without an HP IV or anything like that, and not too many Mythic Blessings, you can have him set up Wings of Mercy, or alternatively, he could engage off of Wings of Mercy of someone else setting up. Either way, the recoil and effects of his weapon are going to be quite useful in Gale Force strategies as well, because again, he's not impacted by enemy guard skills, which are trying to deny his Gale Force. He'll work great with other partners like Valoria, and notably, Safety Fence. Safety Fence will be really good for him so that he can engage properly on turn 2 as opposed to turn 1. So, one of his best partners, the Fence. Alright guys, that pretty much covers my analysis on Muarim here. Compared to someone like Orson last year, I think he stands out quite a bit and might be worth an investment on your end, or at least considering. As a free GHB, I'm happy to present someone like this because, well, sometimes there's just not many good quality GHBs or Tempest Trials, or literally forgotten ones, but this guy has a solid place in today's game, so if you wanted to use him, don't be afraid to do so. Let me know what you think of Muarim in the comments below, whether you're building him, and yeah, that's it from me. As always, if you haven't smashed the like button, go ahead and do so. Many of you are still unsubscribed, so maybe consider pressing that as well. Checking out these routine videos that I try to put in as much effort as I can so that you guys get the information you need to succeed. Love you all. See you in the next one very soon. Much love. Peace.